What are the 7 income streams that millionaires use to grow wealth? In this video, I am going to share with you what those are, and more importantly, how you can get started if right now you might only have one income stream, which is the typical average person. So, if you're brand new to me, my name is Susan McVeigh. I am a business sales strategist, and I help entrepreneurs just like you sell with more ease without the sleaze so that you can make more income, more impact while you live your life of freedom and flexibility. And in case you're wondering, why the heck am I talking about this? Because I don't want you to make lots of money in your business, to sell a lot of your products and services, and have to continue to work, because that is by definition a job. And I don't know about you, but I left having to have a job so that I could live a life of freedom. And that means that my money gets to make more money. That is really for me, the pure definition of passive income versus pseudo passive, which we will get to in just a moment. And my background is in working for a massive financial company. And so these are the things that I used to talk about day in and day out, and in fact, used it to grow my own wealth. So, the very first income stream, we're going to go pretty quickly through this. Okay. So, number one is earned income. It's income that you earn usually through a paycheck. So this could be through a job. It also could be through a business that you work at. Okay. It could be your own business that you work at if you're self-employed, where you are basically paying yourself a salary, a paycheck. Okay. So that's number one. Let me know in the comments as we go through which one of these do you already have and which one would you like to start or have. Okay. And whatever questions that you have as well. Number two, the second income stream is dividend income. So dividends, it can be through public and private companies. Typically, for the average person, the way that you're going to purchase a dividend is by buying a part of a company, like a stock, a share, that pays out a dividend. Okay. Now, how do you find these? You literally can just Google it. Every single public company will indicate what their dividend payout is. And if you read the corporate statements, which I know is kind of boring, but if you just Google like highest paying dividend companies, you'll be able to get a pretty substantial list. Now, typically, there's certain industries that will pay a higher dividend. The higher the risk, the higher the reward, right? And that also goes for dividends. Now, oftentimes, blue chip companies like a Disney, a Coca-Cola, all of your banks, any financials, like any financial industry sort of thing, so whether it's an insurance or an actual bank, a credit union, usually if they're publicly traded, they're going to pay out a dividend. And it is pretty consistent because it's one of the ways that they say, hey, thanks for investing in us. As a result of you giving us your money, we're going to give you a portion, and it accounts for that risk that you might be taking on. So dividends can be paid out monthly, quarterly, annually, just depends on how the company is structured. So depending on how often you need that income, and more importantly, if you don't need the income, you can reinvest it. And that allows you to take advantage of that money, making more money for you automatically. So a lot of times, if you're investing on your own, this is going to be called a DRIP, dividend reinvestment plan. Okay, dividend reinvestment plan, DRIP. Number three, rental income. So oftentimes when we're thinking about rental income, we're thinking about real estate. But the truth of the matter is, you essentially could buy anything that somebody else could rent. Okay. Look at things like Turo. Uh, that's where you have a car, maybe multiple cars, because there's actually people who are setting up car rental agencies using Turo. Just Google it if you don't believe me. So if you happen to have, a lot of cars that you don't often use, or you have the ability to have access to cars and you're thinking, I love cars. I'd love for somebody else to pay for my car or cars. This could be a great way for you to generate some income. Is it typically used for real estate? Yes, that's the more traditional way. But more and more, again, you can literally rent whatever you want. If you have it and somebody needs to use it, tool rental companies, like, expand your mind. Okay. I want you to think of things that you purchase not as like just a thing, right? Could somebody else make use of it? And can you turn that now? Oftentimes it's just a household good, right? Pressure washer system, as an example. If somebody wanted to rent a pressure washer, could they come to you? That could generate some rental income. Okay. Now, that could also tie into a business income. We'll get to that towards the end. So you're going to want to stick around. But rental income, I'm going to use it more in the traditional sense, but I've given you some examples to just get your gears rolling around. We're not going to be able to go into all the nitty gritty details in this particular video. So rental income, if you Google that, your chances are that you're going to see that more associated with real estate. Now, here's the interesting part. Depending on where you are in the world, you do not need to be a resident of that country in order to buy property from another country. So I'm here in Canada. I could literally buy real estate anywhere in the world. Now, here's the caveat. You need to take a look and see if there's tax implications, because oftentimes there's reporting and taxation and things that might make it a little bit mucky. So before you do this strategy, you're going to want to talk to an accountant at the very least. And depending on like your financial situation, maybe your financial advisor, maybe a lawyer. Okay. Side note, this is not financial advice. I am not your financial advisor. So rental income is number 3. It's a great way for you to get paid on something that you purchased that otherwise could be a liability because you put money into it, but it's not helping add anything to your bottom line. And to turn that into not only an asset that's producing an asset, but also an asset that produces cash flow. Okay. Because remember, we're talking about income streams. We're not talking about just assets here. We could cover that in a separate video. Number 4 is capital gains. So capital gains is for any asset, any investment, anything that you own or purchase for ownership that goes up in value. Okay. Capital gains is the difference between what you buy something for and what you sell it for. Let's use your home as an example. If you buy a house for $200,000 and you sell that home for $250,000, that $50,000 is capital gains. Now, again, depending on where you are in the world, that may or may not be taxed. I'm not a tax expert, so please make sure you talk to an accountant. Okay. Hello, Janie. So capital gains is the difference between what you buy an asset for and what you sell it for. Not all assets are created equally. So the amount of capital gain will vary. So this is a little bit like kind of rolling the dice. But that being said, the way that you will decide what the asset is that produces the capital gain for you, because you could do this with real estate, you can do this with stocks, you can do this with private businesses and public businesses, depending on the nature of how it's all set up. But usually with public businesses, to generate a capital gain, you are going to purchase a share, okay, a share of stock. So if you are buying into a business and you sell your shares out of that business, this is often how professionals who are buying into either an agency or a partnership, like a lawyer, a firm, right, a practice, they will often buy into the business. Now, we're going to talk about that later, but when you sell the business, that isn't just business income. It becomes a capital gain, again, depending on how the business is structured. So caveat again, not financial advice, not tax advice. I'm giving you the language so that you are armed with what you need to ask better questions when you're dealing with licensed, accredited professionals. I am neither of those, which is why this is for information and educational purposes only, because I'm covering my butt according to my lawyer. Okay. That little sidebar conversation, a capital gain can happen for collector cars, as an example. My parents, way back when, because my dad loves cars and had this dream and desire to refurbish, what is it? Like a historic? That's not the right word. a collector's car, a collector's like old vintage Mercedes. Now, my dad loves cars, but he's not overly mechanical. Like he's not that way inclined. He's handy, but not that way inclined. So he had bought it thinking, I'm going to refurbish, like restore it, and then sell it. If he had done that, that would technically be a capital gain. Okay. That would be an increase in the value. That's for us here in Canada. Again, that may have changed because that was way back when. Again, you're going to need to talk to a tax person in order to figure out, and a financial person in order to figure out which one of these income streams make the most sense for you. But I'm giving you this language so that you can decide and decipher and do some of the research so that you can figure out what's the most aligned to you so you don't feel intimidated when people are saying, oh, I have this and this and this and this, right? Because we've all been to those parties, and especially this time of year when you might be hobnobbing with more of your friends and family and they're talking about all these things. At the end of the year, a lot of times millionaires start to do tax write-offs, like tax selling. So they will actually sell off investments. These are more complex wealth strategies in order to deal with capital gains and other types of investment income increases. Like these are different tax strategies. Okay, we're not going to get into that right now. So that number 4 is capital gains. Okay, so we've done earned income, like a paycheck, whether it's through your business or through a job. Number 2 is dividends. Number 3 is rental income, more traditionally talked about with real estate, but it could be for other types of assets that you are now renting out, like a car, like Turo. Number 4 is a capital gain. Okay, these are all ways that millionaires generate more income. Number 5 is going to be interest income. Now, typically, these would be things that would generate a steady and consistent rate of return through interest. Not too long ago, very few people were investing in interest income sorts of vehicles. This would be where it is like a GIC. So in Canada, it's a guaranteed investment certificate. It could be a CD. It's a certificate of deposit, I think. I can't remember what the acronym is in the US. So again, I want you to think for yourself. Do you hear some of these acronyms? Have you heard something like a certificate of deposit or a guaranteed interest income, something like that? It's going to sound very similar, again, depending on where you are in the world. Okay, I can't nearly do all the research for you. Please go and do the work, because now that I've given you like some of the information, and feel free to ask questions, because that's the whole point of me doing this, right? Is to give you the language of money. The language of money is very specific. And when we understand the language of money, then you can become rich and wealthy. You can do more good things in the world. I'm not saying that you can't do good things with less money, but you definitely have more options and more opportunities when you have more wealth. And those are the people that I help. So number 5 is at interest income. It typically is connected to interest rates. So guess what? We just passed the season where we were at all-time record low interest rates. And so most people were not invested in this type of income stream because you made no money. Okay, like, let's just be real. As the rates go up, here's the good news. If you want things that are more guaranteed, so these are typically safer types of investments. Again, not investment advice for you, my friend. I'm just giving you education around what this looks like. So interest income usually is an itty bitty amount. It's not going to make you the wealthiest person by investing in interest income, because that guarantee comes at risk versus return. So it's a low risk, low return. Okay. And as a result, interest income, the main goal of this type of investment vehicle is to pay you a little bit. It's basically like peanuts, just barely, maybe. And right now, it's not going to be inflation, because inflation is really high, and which is why we're seeing all this stuff going on with the interest rates. Okay, so interest income is designed to preserve capital. So if you put in $1,000, typically you're going to get back your $1,000 and then whatever the interest rate is. Okay. So it might be 2%, it may be 3%, it might be 5%. Okay. And I can talk a little bit about the relationship between like income and debt in another video if that's helpful, like why there's a disparity between what you borrow from the bank and what you get for interest. If that's interesting, let me know in the comments, because if it's not interesting, I won't go over it. So that's number 5. Number 6 is business income. Now, business income can be passive or active. Usually when we get into active business income, it means that you have to do something in order to create it. Now, here's the thing. Oftentimes we chase after passive income and you don't realize how much work it takes to make passive income. Am I right? So for me, how I define true passive income, it's where I can set it and forget it. Now, most things are not truly passive by definition, because even for your investments, even for your income streams, you should be looking at it regularly, at minimum once a year. Now, this being said, if you are the type of person who freaks out every time you see things go up and down, I mean, that's a whole conversation for a whole other video. But if that freaks you out, then the more frequently that you look at something, it's called frequency of exposure, and you can Google that term if that calls to you, because I'm not going to do that research for you. But frequency exposure, it just means that every time that you see something, your anxiety is going to go up and up and up through the roof. And you're probably going to make bad decisions, because most of us under stress, duress, anxiety, nerves, worry are not going to make the best choices. Okay. So if that's you, you would probably be better off just setting and forgetting as much as you possibly can, recognizing that anytime that you have a major change in your life, which is going to vary depending on you, then you are proactive in reaching out to your financial advisor, who should be licensed or accredited or both, to be able to have these conversations. So business income can be passive and or active. And I'm putting into one bucket. Now, here's what's interesting, because so often when I've made this list before and I put it on Twitter, people commented and they're like giving me all these different ways, courses and programs and ebooks and speaking and consulting and coaching and all of that stuff. Yep. That all falls under business income. And it may actually not fall under what I would qualify as business income, but more under earned income, because you're earning that income. Okay. Now, for the purposes of this video, I've put earned income as whatever you do for a living. Okay. And that could be your business. Now, so why do I have a category called business income? Because here's the truth. Most millionaires, most multimillionaires, certainly most billionaires, they are not born, they are earned. Okay, they're not born, they're earned. Very few people on the top billionaires, millionaires list, regardless of the levels, if you search them, and do some research, you'll find that most of them were not born into that wealth. It was something that they earned. Okay, now part of that's opportunity, part of that skill set. But regardless of what that was, at the end of the day, if we know that the bulk of wealth that creates that level, millionaire plus, more than half have a business. More than half have some kind of association, connection, or interest where they have invested in a business. That's why I put it separately, because it may not be your business, but if you've invested in somebody else's business, then that could be where you're gaining income from that business. So this is separate from dividends. This is separate from rental. This is separate from capital gains, although you could also be earning all of those through a business as well. Okay. Can you see now why this all compounds together? Because when you have the ability, and for me, I really want to impress upon you, if you currently are not using a business as a very, very important wealth vehicle, that you will consider it. And if there's resources that you need in order to get going, please let me know, because this is I've helped clients do this. I've done it, right? I've done it. I've failed at it, and now I've succeeded. And I will continue to evolve and iterate as I go because I keep learning. Because some of the things that I've been taught, right? Some of the things that I learned as a kid growing up that has greatly impacted the way that I see wealth, how I view wealth, how I build wealth. Even though I've done this for, 20 plus years for other clients, there's things that because I didn't grow up with money, I didn't even grow up in a family that had a lot of money around us. We didn't view money the same way. There's things that I could not have learned through just scholarly types of information. This is about like learning from being in it. Does that make sense? Okay. So this is where business income can come from. Here's an example. Because this is actually something that my husband and I are actively looking at pursuing right now. We're just looking for business opportunities. All of my family have been, for the most part, no, I shouldn't say all. A lot of my family have been business owners, mostly because they're immigrants to Canada. And so the easiest way for them to get a job was to make their own. I'm just being point blank, period, honest, because way back when they came in to the country, there still is a lot of racism, and they were not hired. They're just not hired for jobs, right? And so they decided instead of waiting for an opportunity, they were going to create opportunities. Now, if they had been really smart about it, instead of them working in the business, once the business generated income, what they would have done is hired somebody to do the work for them and then taken their profits and started to invest in other businesses that were similar. So as an example, I had an aunt who owned a laundromat for a long time, and it's not overly a skillful job. Not really. I mean, the machines do all the work, right? But it requires somebody to be there because you can't just have a self-serve laundromat and nobody there. It doesn't require a lot of people. It doesn't require a ton of things going on, but it does require oversight. So if they had gone in, done what they did with their laundromat, it was very successful. But now I can look back with new eyes and see, and this is a whole bonus because I actually wasn't planning to share this. They should have taken their profits and bought another laundromat, because when you purchase the same type of business, you create economies of scale. So the things that you're ordering, so if they're ordering whatever it is, right? Like in this case, people came in with their own laundry soap. But what if they were selling laundry soap, which a lot of places do? And they may have. I just honestly don't remember because I was a kid, right? When they're ordering those kinds of supplies, now instead of ordering like 100 boxes, they can order 200 or maybe even 300 boxes. And the price of those goods drops considerably, right? Because I'm buying way more. If you are supplying me with the stuff that I need for my business, and now I have multiple businesses, guess what happens? I get a better deal. And that's why the rich get richer. That's why they grow so fast. It's not because they are working harder. It really is because they have figured out the rules of the game. So when we say working smarter, it's really not even about being smart. It's not, because we all know smart people who are broke. We all know people who are a little less than smart, who are very rich, right? So I've said this before, and I will say it until the cows come home. Money does not care if you are a good person or a bad person. Money does not care how smart or not smart you are. Money likes a system. And once you know the system, once you figure out the rules of the game, then you are in it to win it, and you actually can win. But if you're playing the wrong game, or you're playing the rule, like you're playing the game, but you don't know the rules, you're always going to lose. Okay. So number 6 is business income. Again, inside of a business, can you have all of the things that I just described before about, like, writing books and coaching, consulting, speaking, blah, blah, blah? Yes. But is it true in saying like all of those are different income streams? Not really. I mean, kind of, but if you're entire business was to go under, and depending on how you structured it, that is a reality for a lot of business owners, unfortunately. Then, especially if it's all dependent on you, then guess what? That's still one income stream. Okay? You may have different ways that you produce income, one income stream. Okay? So, the last one, number 7, is royalty and licensing. I've kind of stuck them together. Although they're a little bit different, they're similar enough that they kind of can go together. So, royalty and licensing is often how people who are creating will, how do I want to explain this? I'm trying to figure out how to do this in a simple way. So, I'll give you an example. When somebody is a songwriter, Dolly Parton, because Dolly is a very, very wealthy woman. Dolly has all of these income streams, especially number 7, because Dolly has never sold off the rights to her music. And that means, as a prolific songwriter who has written some of the all-time most popular songs that you hear over and over again on the radio, not sung by Dolly, by the way, like I Will Always Love You, which has been sung a lot of times. I'm pretty sure that's her. Blasted. I hope I that was the right one. I'm like 99% sure. Every time somebody sings that song, every time that song, regardless of the singer, gets played on the radio, Dolly gets a cut because of this last income stream, royalty and licensing. Okay. So when you hear people on Shark Tank or Dragon's Den or any of these other kind of, incubator style business shows, because I don't know where you are in the world. And here I have Dragon's Den and Shark Tank because that's in the US. Anytime they put in this licensing or royalty, you got to pay me a 5% royalty. Guess what happens? Every time you sell something, and oftentimes this is for a product, right? Like, okay, you're going to sell these special blankets, like a weighted blanket, and I want a 5% royalty until I get my equity back, or until forever. That is a continual income stream. Does this make sense? So royalties and licensing often are for, they're very popular in the singer-songwriting community, in the photography world, in a lot of creative spaces where you're like actually making something, like a tangible good, but they can also be used for software programs. We often are purchasing a license. Microsoft works this way. You are purchasing a license. If you were producing a course for a company, like a large company, a la Microsoft, a la Apple, and you were giving, they were having access to your program for their staff, they would have to buy individual licenses depending on your contracts and all that kind of stuff. So can you see, like, this is where there's some overlap, absolutely, but there's also very specific differentiations between all of these. And especially for royalty and licensing, you will need to speak to somebody who is, I would hope, highly specialized in this area, because it can get very, very complicated or more complex. There's finer tuned intricacies that I am not privy to because this is not my area of expertise. Okay. However, from a high level strategic point of view, these are things that I talk to with my clients about. Most are not in that space. Like, it doesn't make sense. Okay. So again, some do. I have one right now that we have mapped out stuff so that she can license and work on some of those deals. So I want you to think of right now, because oftentimes the average person is going to have one income stream. And that means if that income stream, like your job, was to go away tomorrow, what would you do? What would you do? And if, the last 2.5 years has not shown us anything, it really hopefully is a reminder that having one income stream puts us at risk. This is where that whole adage of don't put your eggs all in one basket. And so a lot of times people are trying to put their money in all these different places, in all of these different institutions. Yeah, I get it. But at the end of the day, you actually could have all of your money with one main financial institution. Keep things simple, but then look at all of the different ways that you have access to income, right? You can invest in different ways. Now, I was about to go down a whole other rabbit trail. I'm not going to go there because we could be on here for another hour. So let's do a quick recap. Okay. Quick recap, because we've already gone over a ton of information here, more than I was. I didn't want to get too far into the weeds. If you have specific questions, now is the time. Put them in the comments so I can be sure to address them in upcoming videos, or to point you in the right direction in case I already have a resource for you. So the average person has one, maybe two income streams, because if you are in a relationship, chances are you're not working for the same company. But if you do, your risk goes up, because if something was to happen with that company, even if that company is your business, then what do? Okay. This is why millionaires have more than a one income stream. That being said, you do not need all seven. In fact, my first million, I did not have 7 income streams. Okay. I still don't have 7 income streams now. So I want you to think for yourself, which one of these makes the most sense for me to investigate, research, ask about, and start planning for. Because there's no point in learning about this if you're not going to implement, right? So number one is your earned income. It's your paycheck income. Could be your business as well, like if your business is paying you a paycheck, or through your regular job. Number 2 is dividends. Number 3 is rental income. Number 4 is capital gains. Number 5 is interest income. Number 6 is a business income. And it's not just like you working for your business, it's you potentially investing in other businesses. So this covers a whole umbrella of stuff. It's a big bucket, actually. And it includes both passive types of business income and active types of business income. This could be you being an investor in a business, angel or otherwise. Okay, silent partner or otherwise. And the last one is royalty or licensing. Okay, so I know that was a whole mouthful. This was a jam-packed, hopefully not too far in the weeds, and hopefully enough information that it gets your wheels going for, obviously, the type of format that we're in right now. This is as far as we can go, okay? Because there's too many variables at play. So with that being said, pick the 1, 2, at max that you are interested in adding on to your current income streams. Make sense? So write it down to hold yourself accountable that this is going to be now part of your homework that you're going to take and implement on. And you have hopefully enough language that you can go and start Googling, start finding books. If you have questions because you're just not sure and you need recommendations, then put it in the comments below, because I will come back in and answer those for you or help point you in the right direction. It is really important that you have the knowledge and the skills and the expertise and feel confident about the decisions and the choices that you're making. Make sense? Because this is really, you're not going to be able to do this overnight. I guarantee you, this is a marathon, not a sprint. But in order to start running, you got to start somewhere. Like you have to put on the shoes, right? You have to put on the gear. You have to lace them up so that you can run out the door. And if you don't have even the shoes, as much as you want to run, it's going to be awful painful for you to just run out there with your bare feet. So you need to have the right equipment. You need to have the right knowledge. You need to have the right language. And that's what I'm doing, is I'm giving you the language of money. This is like my area of expertise, whether it's inside of sales or inside of personal wealth and finances. You need to understand the language of how things work, because without it, you won't be able to pick the right strategy for you, because there literally is a million different ways to become a millionaire. Uh, which one is right for you? I don't know. I can't tell you. Okay. And just like I shared yesterday, be very careful and very cautious about going to somebody who automatically, as soon as you ask a question, starts giving you answers without knowing anything about your background, anything about what your goals are, anything about what you've already done and haven't done, and how this might fit in. Be very wary, because guaranteed that person benefits from giving you the type of advice that may or may not serve you. Okay. And that's why I say, when you're dealing with a financial advisor, you need to go to somebody who's licensed and accredited, either or, sometimes both. It just depends on where you are. You can search, Google, what is the licensing requirement for somebody who sells this type of investment for where you live in the world? It is very important, because you don't want to take people at face value. I mean, I'm all for trusting people. I'm very trusting. I'm also very trustworthy. And at the end of the day, somebody who's taking your money should have nothing to hide. Okay. They should be more than happy to give you, like, here's how you do these things in order to check up on what's going on. So, with that being said, write your homework below. Okay. I'm just going to check, because this was a big thing, on questions, in case I can help with that. Samantha says, wow, I love this topic. Thank you. Okay, Janie says, yes, that's right. CD, certificate of deposit. Perfect. Okay. I'm just seeing if there is any other questions. Nope, I don't see any. Okay, so you have your marching orders right now for how you can start to implement at least one of these income streams in order to get going on your path to millionaire, multimillionaire, or a billionaire. But really, this is about allowing yourself to gain more control, to gain more confidence about how you are going to be growing your wealth. So look at the 7, right? Look at the 7 that I went over. Do some research if you need to. Ask more questions, because I guarantee you should be doing that. We often don't, because we don't want to feel silly. Because without better quality questions, you're not going to get better quality answers. And if you don't have the right answers, you won't be able to make the right choices for you. So be sure to take a look, re-listen to this a few times, because I fully understand and am aware that I talked fast. This is also a lot of information about something that I am very well versed in, and that you may or may not have as much experience in. So please give yourself permission to slow it down, stop and start, Google as you go, because that's the whole point. Okay. So in the comments, you're going to decide for yourself which one of these 7 income streams are you the most interested in learning more about, that you are going to start looking at, researching, and or implementing for yourself on your path to grow wealth. So add them below, because I think that will inspire all of us to look at what we're going to do. So I'm just going to share with you guys. For me, my main thing right now that we're looking at, which I kind of shared earlier, actively, is business income. Not in my business, because I don't want another job. Okay. But to actively look at other investment opportunities where we can purchase, invest, and I'm an angel investor, so I do invest in other businesses that could impact some of the other income streams, but to put money in where that money now compounds and continues to grow. It pays it forward for another business owner potentially, but also could produce an income stream. The regularity will vary depending on the risk involved. And those are the types of opportunities that we're looking for actively. Okay, so I hope that helps you. We will see you again on another money topic, because we're in this money series right now, unless something changes, unless I feel differently. So be sure to hit like, subscribe, the bell, wherever you are, depending on where you're watching this, so that you can get notified the next time that I go live talking about a topic, hopefully that's going to help you to grow your wealth, gain more wisdom, and to live the life of freedom and flexibility that you truly desire. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you soon. Bye bye.